HOA leader claims my lake house belongs to her spoiled son.
I'm no HOA member.
Imagine saving for years to finally buy your dream lake house. A quiet retreat far from noise and drama. But what if the moment you move in, a neighborhood association you don't even belong to tries to strip it away from you? Picture a woman, entitled and ruthless, insisting your home was meant for her spoiled son, parading authority she never had, and backed by neighbors blinded by prejudice. This wasn't just a fight for property, it was a fight for dignity, safety, and the truth. And the storm that followed would expose every ugly layer of entitlement hiding behind a false HOA badge. The story begins on the edge of a serene, tree-lined lake. For years, Marcus had dreamed of a peaceful retreat where he could fish, write, and escape city life. After decades of hard work, he purchased an old but charming cabin by the water. It wasn't inside any subdivision, and there was no official homeowners association. Just independent properties scattered along the shore. Marcus, a black professional in his 40s, valued the solitude. For him, the cabin wasn't just real estate. It was proof that his sacrifice and determination had paid off. He put his heart into restoring it, painting walls, mending docks, and planting flowers near the porch. Every nail hammered into the wood was part of his healing, part of reclaiming peace he had long been denied in crowded city streets. But tranquility rarely lasts long when arrogance and prejudice find a way to intrude. Not long after he settled in, Marcus began noticing curious stares. Neighbors whispered when he walked down the pier. Some offered tight, uncomfortable smiles, but others looked at him as though he didn't belong. It wasn't long before rumors carried to his ears about a community leader who thought she owned the entire shoreline. Her name was Patricia, head of a so-called neighborhood improvement committee that she fashioned to look like an HOA. Though unofficial, she ran it with the authority of a dictator, sending letters, collecting fees, and bullying residents into compliance. And Marcus, the newest arrival, quickly became her target. She claimed his lake house wasn't rightfully his. According to Patricia, it was reserved for her son, a grown man who never worked a day in his life. At first, Marcus brushed it off as small-town drama. He received a knock on his door one morning and found Patricia standing on the porch, clipboard in hand, a fake smile plastered across her face. She spoke in a tone that dripped with forced politeness, welcoming him to the association and informing him of the rules. The rules were laughable. Mandatory lawn height, dock maintenance schedules, and even a demand to repaint shutters in approved colors. Marcus politely reminded her that his property wasn't in her HOA jurisdiction. He had checked the deed, double-checked the county lines, and confirmed that his lake house was entirely independent. Patricia's smile soured. Days later, the harassment escalated. Letters appeared in his mailbox, stamped with an imitation HOA seal. Neighbors began dropping hints that Marcus should make peace and pay dues, even if just to keep Patricia happy. But Marcus refused to bow to fabricated authority. Then came the accusations. Patricia began spreading rumors that Marcus had obtained the property through questionable means. She told neighbors her son had been promised the cabin years earlier by the previous owner, a lie Marcus easily disproved with legal paperwork. Still, the damage spread. He noticed more than whispers now. Cold stares followed him at the grocery store. Conversations stopped when he walked by. What stung wasn't just the entitlement. It was the undertone of something uglier. Some neighbors didn't question Patricia because they trusted her fake authority. Others didn't question her because they didn't believe Marcus belonged there at all. To them, a successful black man with a lakefront home seemed out of place. The final straw came when Marcus returned from town one evening to find Patricia and her son on his porch. The son, a man in his late 20s with smug confidence, sat lounging on his rocking chair as if he already owned it. Patricia announced with bold arrogance that the house was meant for her family, and that Marcus should consider moving out before things got complicated. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest, but he didn't yell. He didn't need to. He had something stronger on his side: evidence, patience, and the law. What Patricia didn't know was that Marcus had begun documenting everything: the letters, the fake stamps, even recording her threats on his security cameras. The trap was already set. The breaking point arrived one bright afternoon when Patricia tried to stage her boldest move yet. She called a gathering of neighbors on Marcus's lawn, declaring that the house was being reclaimed by the HOA for her son. Dozens of residents stood around, some skeptical, others nodding along in nervous agreement. Patricia's son strutted proudly, as if his victory was certain. But Marcus didn't flinch. He calmly walked out with a folder of documents in one hand and his phone in the other. He presented the deed, county records, and even emails confirming the property's independence from any association. Gasps rippled through the small crowd. Patricia's face flushed with rage, but Marcus wasn't done. He pressed a button on his phone, and his security footage began playing. The crowd watched Patricia's recorded visits, her threats, her demands, her son lounging arrogantly on Marcus's porch, her insistence that he give up his home. The room of whispers turned into silence. Neighbors who had believed her narrative now saw the truth unfiltered. And then Marcus revealed one more card. He had already filed reports with the sheriff's office and the county housing authority. Patricia hadn't just been harassing him. She had been committing fraud, impersonating an official HOA, and extorting money from other residents for years. The crowd, once complicit, now turned hostile, but not toward Marcus. Their anger shifted toward Patricia, who suddenly realized her empire of intimidation was collapsing. Her son stormed off in embarrassment, muttering curses, while Patricia stood frozen, powerless for the first time in years. Marcus didn't raise his voice or gloat. He simply stood tall, with the truth as his shield, as her lies fell apart. In the weeks that followed, Patricia's downfall was swift. Authorities launched a full investigation. Residents came forward with stories of the money she had demanded, the fines she had invented, and the threats she had whispered. What began as Marcus's personal fight quickly exposed years of abuse hidden beneath her fake authority. Patricia faced charges for fraud and harassment. Her son, once spoiled by entitlement, now had no lake house to claim. The neighborhood transformed almost overnight. Neighbors who once avoided Marcus began apologizing, some out of guilt, others out of genuine shame. They admitted they had believed Patricia because it was easier than questioning her power, easier than confronting their own biases. Marcus didn't celebrate her downfall with revenge or cruelty. Instead, he quietly continued restoring his cabin, fishing on the dock and planting flowers by the porch. The same neighbors who once whispered now greeted him with warmth, realizing how wrong they had been to ever doubt his place there. But Marcus understood something deeper. This fight had never been just about a house. It was about the stubborn prejudice that made some neighbors so willing to believe Patricia's lies in the first place. His victory wasn't just legal. It was symbolic. Proof that entitlement, no matter how loud, cannot erase truth. As he sat on his porch one evening, the lake reflecting the orange glow of sunset, Marcus wondered how many others across the country faced battles like his. How many families were pushed out, silenced, or intimidated, simply because they didn't fit the picture of what certain people believed belonged in their neighborhoods. The story of Patricia wasn't just local gossip, it was a mirror, reflecting systemic injustice. And Marcus's cabin stood as a reminder. Sometimes the quietest resistance, truth, patience, and dignity can dismantle the loudest lies. So, I ask you, if silence fuels entitlement, how loud will you be when it comes knocking at your door?